This demo really shows some of the benefits of using Anaplan to support processes within finance. What we can see on the screen initially is a dashboard which is focused on our monthly actuals and forecasting process. And what you can see is this is very much designed to guide our users through the process of explaining the variances in their actuals and producing their forecast. And you can see each step of the way is signposted for users. Compare that to some of the processes we see at the moment in NHS hospital trusts and other trusts where finance business partners are emailing around spreadsheets all being consolidated manually into a single spreadsheet in the centre with all of the problems and inefficiencies and scope for manual error that causes. So everything is performed in a very process-driven way, all in the Anaplan system, users guided, therefore greatly reducing some of the problems that spreadsheet systems had. So there's one of our processes, but actually the process I want to talk about today in a bit more detail is on another tab, and that's our annual planning process. So this is the process by which on an annual basis we submit our plan to NHSE. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the end of this process because one of the challenges around this process is submitting to NHSE in the end. And if I flick over to Excel, as we all know, that's performed using a series of Excel templates that get emailed to NHSE. So here we can see the statement of comprehensive income that is one of the tabs in that rather large spreadsheet. So typically when we've spoken to trusts, this either has to be linked in to their other spreadsheets or manually typed in with all of the inconvenience and scope for error that produces. But once we've got all of that plan data in Anaplan, updating these templates can be as simple as this. So if we go to the top of Excel, we can see we've got an Anaplan plugin, and this enables Excel to communicate with our Anaplan system and take data from it and actually send data back to it if we want to as well. So all I need to do is simply go here, click on refresh again, and it's reaching into Anaplan, getting my statement of comprehensive income and bringing it back onto this page. Now I'm ready to submit to an HSE. Great. So let's go back to the browser and look at some of the other things that we've got in this demo that help with that submission process. So the first one to look at is the plan walkthrough. So this really is the core of the model. And we can see here, this is the process by which we start by calculating what's our underlying run rate, what's our underlying position for the current year, and then adjusting and bridging across to what is our final plan for the year that we're planning. And we can see in there some buckets like, what's the impact of inflation? And then behind that, we can actually go into some more detail. So if we come over here and expand inflation, we can see all the different elements of inflation that go up to make that number. So we have some pay inflation, and I'll talk a little bit about how we can actually use Anaplan to calculate that in a minute. And then we have inflation for some non-pay things like, for example, drugs and premises. So this is the underlying model, and this is probably something that most hospital trusts are already doing, but in Excel, in a sort of problematic way, perhaps. So that's the core model, but then how do we start populating that model? So I'll just draw attention to two things in a plethora of ways that we can do that. And one of them is business cases. And this could be a business case for new investment, or it could be more of a cost improvement initiative that's being modelled out, either of which may flow back into that model we've just seen. So on this page, we can see all of the hospitals that we've got in our trust. And if I click on those, I can see the business cases I've got against each hospital to the right. I can see I've got a business case for a new community diagnostics hub in Hospital 1. And I can see some of the values associated with that. And if I go into the detail, I can see actually we're now reaching into some really detailed data here. We're actually seeing the makeup of that business case. So we can see here, here's the breakdown of some of those costs. So if I click on imaging, for example, I can then see by scrolling down, I've got some narrative to support that business case costing, and down below, here's how I've actually built that cost up. So we can see we're going down to the level of actually working out how many whole-time equivalents of particular bands we need, and the system's calculating the pay for them. Just a simple demo to show how that you can use Anaplan to support a process like your business planning process, support all the workflow around it and the approvals process around it, and have that flowing and connecting automatically into your annual plan. So that's one example. One other example, and I'm really just going to glance on top of this, is pay inflation. So if we come in here, we can say we can bring pay information into the system at an individual employee level, drawing data directly from ESR if we want to, and then using Anaplan to calculate things like incremental drift, the impact of pay award rises, the impact of national insurance changes, and other factors as well, to give us a really good, accurate picture of how our pay changes are impacting our annual plan. A few final things to notice about this are one of the key challenges any organisation has is mapping from their source data in their ledger, which is probably the starting point of the annual planning process, into some of those NHSE formats. So here we can see a bridge report that forms part of our submission to NHSE, and behind that we're maintaining some of the mappings from our source data to build that bridge up. And if we want to change those mappings, it's simply a case of using a drop down. Other things we might want to do as we go through the process are having revisions. So we may want to take snapshots at different points in our process of creating our annual plan, just so we can record what the status of the plan was at that point. So we can see here, I've had 4 revisions, and if I want to create a new one, it's as simple as clicking on the Create Revision button. Will give me the title and some notes, and it will make a snapshotted copy of that whole plan that can't be changed. So hopefully that's been a very useful introduction, whistle-stop tour of how Anaplan can be used to support some of your business processes in finance.